ఏ యుగం లోపల మనకు కావాల్సిన స్కిల్స్.
I don't think of prompt writing skill as a separate skill.
ఆఫ్టర్ చాటింగ్ విత్ ఏఐ దే రియల్లీ గో అవుట్ ఫర్ ఎ వాక్.
కొంచెం ఈజీగా ఉండాలంటే AI డైలీ బ్రీఫింగ్ అని చెప్పి ఒకటి ఉంది.
You wrote an article on Substack about software development 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0.
పిల్లి కనుక పాలు కళ్ళు మూసుకున్నట్టు, లేకపోతే ఆస్ట్రిచ్ కనుక puts digs its head deep into the sand.
So now what happens to the critical thinking?
In front of you is Crocodile's Festival, a country of geniuses in a data center. Ant మన గురించి ఏమి అర్థం చేసుకోగలదు.
ఈ రోజు మన గెస్ట్ రామ్ కొమర్రాజు. రోజుకి $7 trillion a డే, అంటే దరిదాపు 600 లక్షల కోట్ల రూపాయలు ఫారిన్ ఎక్స్చేంజ్ ట్రేడ్స్ ని సెటిల్ చేసే CLS గ్రూప్ లో మేనేజింగ్ డైరెక్టర్ ఆఫ్ టెక్నాలజీ. రామ్ ఈజ్ అన్ AI స్ట్రాటజిస్ట్, థాట్ లీడర్ అండ్ ఎ సీనియర్ ఫిన్టెక్ ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్. ఈ AI యుగం లోపల మనకు కావాల్సిన స్కిల్స్, AI ఎలా మొదలైంది, ఎటు వెళుతుంది, AI భవిష్యత్ ఏంటి, ఏఐతో మన భవిష్యత్ ఏంటి, ఇవన్నీ రామ్తో మాట్లాడి తెలుసుకుందాం. నా పేరు జాగ్, CEO ఆఫ్ కుడోస్వాల్ అండ్ AI కెరియర్ ప్లాట్ఫామ్. మీరు చూస్తున్నారు జాబ్ టాక్స్ విత్ జాగ్. వెల్కమ్ రామ్, వెల్కమ్ టు జాబ్ టాక్స్ విత్ జాగ్. If it is okay with you, why don't you tell about yourself in a few words, please?
Yeah, thank you, Jag. It's a pleasure to be here. So మీ ఆడియన్స్ అంతా కొంచెం తెలుగు వాళ్ళు కూడా చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు అనుకుంటున్నాను. So I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with all of you. My view is that whatever I'm going to say, first of all, let me say that these are my personal views. They don't represent those of my employer in any way. So I've spent nearly 3 decades on the Wall Street, working for one major financial firm or the other. And in the last few years, I've been spending a lot of time with AI, or specifically artificial intelligence. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of my views with your audience, and keen to hear what they have to say in comment section.
Thank you for that. So AI ఎట్లా మొదలైంది, ఈ పాయింట్ దాకా ఎట్లా వచ్చింది? So let us start with the simple thing, and so that we can dig in deep later.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually. AI, at least the idea of AI, it's as old as the computers themselves. Ante, as soon as going back to 1940s, appatlo diodes to transistors to computerlu, appatinka we didn't even have displays kani, keyboard lu kani, anything that we expect today. Appatlo entante, they were just the beginning, the very beginning of the most basic calculator. Today is even more powerful than what we had those days. But కాకపోతే చాలా థియరిటిషియన్స్ ఉండేవాళ్ళు. వాన్ నైమన్ ఆర్కిటెక్చర్స్ అంటారు, కంప్యూటర్ ఎట్లా ఆర్కిటెక్ట్ చేయాలని చెప్పని. అలన్ ట్యూరింగ్, బ్రిటిష్ మ్యాథమెటిషియన్, ఆయన he also worked on some idea, the very early ideas. అందుకని ట్యూరింగ్ టెస్ట్ అన్న కాన్సెప్ట్ కూడా అక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చింది. సో ఆ రోజుల నుంచి కంప్యూటర్లు వచ్చిన వెంటనే చాలా మంది అప్పట్లో ఫీల్డ్ లో పైనీర్స్ కి వాళ్ళకి అనిపించేది అనమాట, ఇది కంప్యూటర్స్ ని హౌ కెన్ వి మేక్ దెమ్ థింక్ లైక్ హ్యూమన్స్ అని చెప్పని. సో ఆ ఐడియాస్ ని ట్యూరింగ్ టెస్ట్ అంటారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ అలన్ ట్యూరింగ్ 1940s లో ప్రపోజ్ చేశాడు అది. ఆ తర్వాత 1950s ఆ టైంలో ది ఐడియాస్ దట్ వి యూస్ టుడే, బిలీవ్ ఇట్ ఆర్ నాట్, 1950s లో ఒరిజినల్ ఐడియాస్ మొదలైనాయి అనమాట. ఆ తర్వాత కాకపోతే ఇనీషియల్ గా చాలా ఫాస్ట్ గా, చాలా ఈజీగా చేసేయచ్చు, మనుషుల కంటే ఎక్కువగా తెలివిగా ఆలోచించే కంప్యూటర్లు వస్తాయని చెప్పని చాలా అనుకునేవాళ్ళు. ఆ తర్వాత ఒక రకంగా ఇది, ఒక రకంగా అది, రకరకాల ఐడియాస్ తోటి పీపుల్ కెప్ట్ ట్రైయింగ్ మెనీ డిఫరెంట్ ఐడియాస్. నన్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ రియలీ వర్క్డ్ ఇన్ అ వే. సో బ్యాక్ ఇన్ late 70s, early 80s, there were a couple of different ways. జపాన్ ఒకటి, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ప్రోలాగ్ అని చెప్పని, దాన్ని వాడి లాజిక్ బేస్డ్ ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ AI లో చేద్దామని చూసారు, అది వర్క్ కాలేదు. ఆ తర్వాత late 80s లో ఎక్స్పర్ట్ సిస్టమ్స్ అని, సమ్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్ పీపుల్ స్టిల్ యూస్ దెమ్ మేబీ. అప్పట్లో ఐడియా ఏంటంటే ఎర్లీ 80s నుంచి late 80s దాకా, వై డోంట్ వి టర్న్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ హ్యూమన్ నాలెడ్జ్ ఇంటూ అ సెట్ ఆఫ్ రూల్స్ అండ్ ఫ్యాక్ట్స్ అండ్ దెన్ లెట్ ద సిస్టమ్ డిజైన్ అండ్ ఆన్సర్ ద క్వశ్చన్స్ అని చెప్పని. బట్ కాబట్టి తెలిసింది ఏంటంటే, మనకు అనిపించేవన్నీ అంత సింపుల్ గా కోడిఫై చేయలేము, ఆ రూల్స్ లాగా చెప్పలేము అని చెప్పని. సో దాని తర్వాత దట్ వాస్ ద సెకండ్ AI వింటర్ అంటారు. ఆ తర్వాత ఈ పాత ఐడియాసే, అది న్యూరల్ నెట్వర్క్స్, ఒరిజినల్ ఐడియా స్టార్టింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ 50s ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, వాటిని ఈ 1990s లో వచ్చినప్పటి నుంచి కంప్యూటర్లు ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ దే బికేమ్ అ లాట్ ఫాస్టర్ అండ్ లాట్ మోర్ పవర్ఫుల్ అండ్ దేర్ ఇస్ అ లాట్ మోర్ డేటా అవైలబుల్. సో ఈ రెండింటిని కలిపి, డేటా అండ్ ఇంక్రీస్డ్ కంప్యూట్, అంటే కంప్యూటింగ్ కెపాసిటీ. ఈ రెండింటినీ కలిపి ఈ న్యూరల్ నెట్వర్క్స్ అన్న వాటికి వాడితే వస్తుందా అని చెప్పని ప్రయత్నం చేయడం మొదలుపెట్టారు. నిజానికి ఎవరికి అంత తేలిగ్గా తెలియలేదు అది సక్సెస్ అవుతుందా లేదా అని చెప్పని. బట్ 2010-2011 ప్రాంతం నుంచి రకరకాలుగా సడన్ గా సక్సెసెస్ రావడం మొదలుపెట్టినాయి అనమాట. అంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇమేజెస్ చూసి అది క్యాటా డాగా లేకపోతే ఇది అదే పిల్ల కుక్క లేకపోతే ఇట్లాంటివన్నవి చాలా కష్టం అనిపించేవి ఒకప్పుడు. ఆ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ సాల్వ్ చేయడం మొదలుపెట్టినాయి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కంప్యూటర్ చెస్ ఇప్పుడు మీ ఫోన్ లో వాడితే ఉండే కంప్యూటర్ కెన్ బీట్ వరల్డ్స్ స్ట్రాంగెస్ట్ గ్రాండ్ మాస్టర్. సో ఇట్లాంటివన్నీ రావడం మొదలుపెట్టిన తర్వాత అఫ్ కోర్స్ ఇన్ ద లాస్ట్ ఫ్యూ years since 2017 there's been an explosion in the possibilities of AI because of some significant advances in architecture, but nobody predicted them, by the way. This is the other thing that people have to understand. Mundu anukuntaru, when you have these ideas, you think everybody knew how these would work. Ala kaadu, ideas untai, they keep trying. If it works, then they scale it up. We can talk more about it. I think I'll spend quite a bit of time on this.
So now we know how we got here. So ఇప్పుడు ఎవరితో నేను మాట్లాడితే there are two groups of people. So I know for sure you belong to the first group who are very excited about AI and who cherish the developments of AI. There are also second group of people who are really anxious about how the AI is moving, how fast it is moving and all. So దీంట్లోపల ఒకటి సర్వైవల్, ఒకటి చాలా మంది కూడా it is bothering many people that I meet and I talk to. కొంతమంది they are driven but they are not able to know how to succeed in this AI era. దాని గురించి if you can touch little bit about it.
Yeah, no, I have to say one thing. I'm excited, but I'm also a bit scared. Scared అనదానికంటే maybe I have to say that it's kind of uncertain. అంటే మిగతా టెక్నాలజీస్ ఇప్పటిదాకా వచ్చిన వాటితో పోలిస్తే ఏఐ అనేది ఇట్ కెన్ ఫండమెంటలీ ట్రాన్స్ఫార్మ్. ఇప్పటిదాకా హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్ స్పెషాలిటీ అనేది ఇట్స్ అబౌట్ అవర్ థింకింగ్. సో వాట్ ఎవర్ ఎల్స్ యూ కుడ్ డూ, a horse can run faster than us. Some other animal can be stronger than us, etc. But human beings are the only ones that could actually think. ఆలోచించగలిగేవాళ్ళం మనం అని చెప్పని, కొన్ని రకాల ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ మనమే చేయగలం అని చెప్పని. అది అయితే కనుక then obviously it brings forth a lot of concerns. ఫ్యూచర్ ఏంటి? ఇప్పుడు ఒక రోబోట్ మన పనులన్నీ చేయగలిగితే, ఒక కంప్యూటర్ మనం చేయగలిగే థింకింగ్ వైట్ కాలర్ జాబ్స్ అంటారు, వాటన్నిటిని చేయగలిగితే what is the future? So there is definitely a lot of that uncertainty. That said, as a computer scientist, when I look back 30 years ago when I started my journey, I started this because I was excited at that time of what's possible. So from that perspective, if you're a computer scientist or if you're involved in this field, it's hard not to be excited. But I think you asked the question finally, what can we do about it? Whether you're excited or scared, what is it that we can do? So now this intente, we can go into more detail later, depending on any more questions you might have. The most important thing is not to ignore and take పిల్లి కనుక పాలు కళ్ళు మూసుకున్నట్టు, లేకపోతే ఆస్ట్రిచ్ కనుక puts digs its head deep into the sand. You shouldn't be that way. I think
That's
so
a
I
good
think
way to put it.
yeah, so don't ignore it. It's not going to go away. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take a few more years, but it is with us and it's not going back into the bottle wherever it came from. So now this intente, the more you can adapt, the more you can actually acquire the skills on how to use this as a tool that can 10x your productivity, the better you're going to be.
Excellent. So what you're suggesting is, number one, not to ignore it, and number two, to upskill themselves with the tools available for their particular field. I'm just giving an example of a content marketing person. If someone is writing a blog, so previously it used to take, let's say, 2-3 hours of research. Google used to give tens of top results. Then you see which are good, which are bad, which applies to you and all. Then you had to apply some critical thinking. Then using that, you use your language skills to write something. So now comes the AI era. So research is done in few seconds or minutes, and the writing part is done. And if you are lazy enough, ideation is also done for you. So now what happens to the critical thinking? Just like you said in the previous thing, so one thing what sets us apart is that critical thinking, that curiosity, in us?
Yeah, I think these fears and the bhayalu, I think there is a reason to be have those concerns. But these concerns have always been there. Whenever I remember Google వచ్చిన కొత్తలో, similar concerns were expressed. But now people are comfortable with using Google because you still feel like, okay, I have the world's knowledge at my disposal, but I still have to figure out how to search for the right things, how to extricate the information from those sites, and then be able to articulate it. That's so. Antakmundu, maybe it used to be a lot harder. Information wasn't at your fingertips. You had to go and read 100 books, not knowing which one's going to be useful, and you had to recollect actively your information from what you've read, and then you had to use it. So as you can see, that's already changed a few things, right? From that perspective, critical thinking still matters in the sense that it's easy for somebody to come up with, using these tools, come up with low quality content. You can be really intellectually lazy about it. You can also try to summarize a few sites and say, give me the gist, and then plop some sensational heading. You can even use the AI to generate some images and then produce that content. But ఈ మధ్య కాలంలో ఒక టర్మ్ వచ్చింది ఇంటర్నెట్ లో, ఐ థింక్ ఇట్స్ బికమ్ వెరీ పాపులర్. ఏంటంటే ఏఐ స్లాప్ అని చెప్పని, ఎస్ఎల్ఓపి, AI slap. So it's very common, unfortunately. ఇంటర్నెట్ లో మీరు ఎక్కడ చూసినా ఇప్పుడు ఆ SEO sites కానీ లేకపోతే లింక్డ్ఇన్ site లో కానీ, అంటే people come up with you can actually you can use some kind of LLM radar to figure out, oh, somebody is using an AI assistant to write this. So my suggestion is that, or my own view is that critical thinking still matters. Your own unique perspective still matters. Of course, you can use AI as a tool, but at the end of the day, what you put it in the prompt is going to determine the response it's going to give you. So if you have some good knowledge, if you thought about it, and if you're able to use the AI as an assistant to iterate over your idea, not just take what it gives you as a first response, but think through it, put your own twist, put your own unique perspective, and make it yours, then it's going to be very useful. Now, of course, I spent a few decades improving my own English and all that. And I think it still matters because at the end of the day, whatever it writes, when I use these tools myself, I would like to the language at the end of the day to reflect the way I communicate, not the way a typical standard deviation based model LLM would communicate.
Number one takeaway is critical thinking still matters. So do not be lazy. Keep working on that muscle. Just because it is giving does not mean that you should stop using your brain, right? You touched an important thing, how to better themselves at prompt, perhaps take some courses in improving their prompt writing skills. So because that is going to set them apart from others to be successful in this field.
Yeah, if I can add to that, right? I don't think of prompt writing skill as a separate skill. I think of it as a way to communicate effectively. You can be thinking of, instead of thinking like I'm speaking to an AI and an LLM and I need to know how to prompt it, I think of it as it's a very specific, think of it as your assistant, but it's not asking you back any questions. And to that assistant, you have to provide clear directions on what you want. You can also say, for example, hey, here are my instructions. This is what I want you to do. Let me know if you need more information before you fill this answer.
Excellent.
So you could do that with a human being. It's the same thing that you do over here as well. I think the same effective communication, something that I've improved over my lifetime, is going to be invaluable here as well.
One of the things I heard is, if you don't like the answer, change the question. So in this context, maybe you need to change the prompt. So on the flip side, the second person in the same kind of profession, I think AI is giving them more work. Let's say you got an idea, you work on that idea previously. Now AI is so smart, it is going to tell you about 10 other things that you could work on. So it is overwhelming, and to really quote the person that is asking this question, after chatting with AI, they really go out for a walk to keep themselves sane. So how do they deal with this overwhelming information?
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, the reality is, as technology improves, as it improves our productivity, we as humans have to find a way to use it effectively and not feel overwhelmed. And that's going to be an inevitable response. We live in an age of information. There is an information overload. Anywhere you go around, I mean, look at how many people just spend their lives essentially on this, every waking hour on a cell phone, right? Information bombards you. The algorithms that are created to bombard you with information and knowledge. And the same thing here. the thing that I would say in a more practical terms, because this is for those who are looking at it from a professional point of view, a lot of organizations now will start expecting their employees to use these AI tools as force multipliers. Before, if I was expecting you to, maybe if you're a marketing person, I work in technology and finance, so I don't know enough about this, but here is what I'm guessing. If you were able to reach, maybe send and research 10 different clients per day and send cold emails tailored to each of them, of course. Now, with the assistance of AI, they might expect you to do it 20 of them, right? Or maybe 30 of them. And if you're a programmer, if you're expected to do 12 commits a month, maybe the goal is to do 30 commits a month. Or maybe the expectation on you as the graphics designer is to use the latest tools, whether they're embedded in Adobe or, some kind of an image processing tool. You're expected to generate maybe 2 or 3 of those images. Earlier that you used to produce one image per week. Now they expect you to do something more, maybe on a daily basis. So that is inevitable. And I don't think there is an easy way out. Whatever field you're in, you should be able to use the tools to your best of the ability.
Agreed. You have to work on your mental health. At the same time, be more productive with the tools. The most popular tools at our disposal are number one, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Grok, X వాళ్ళ Grok ఉన్నది, దెన్ గూగుల్ జెమినై ఉంది. సో ఈ మూడుని అన్ని ఉపయోగించలేం. ఇఫ్ సమ్మన్ ఈస్ కన్ఫ్యూజ్డ్ అబౌట్ యూజింగ్ దీస్ త్రీ, ఫర్ విచ్ పర్పస్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు యూస్ గ్రాక్, ఫర్ విచ్ పర్పస్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు యూస్ జెమినై, ఫర్ విచ్ పర్పస్ వీ కెన్ యూస్ చాట్ జీపీటీ. సో వాట్ వుడ్ బి యువర్ సజెషన్? Are there any subtle prompt differences for these?
Yeah, so there's a fourth one too, by the way. That's actually pretty a leading one. That's Anthropic's
Yes,
Claude.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
True.
Claude series of models. And then, of course, there are a bunch of open source models, China being the leading one over there. But in terms of, to answer your question, I'll take it in 2 parts. To answer your question straight away, in terms of whether there are any differences, a prompt loop, I don't think we should focus too much on that. The reality is, unless you're somebody creating specific agentic tools with a lot of dependencies, in which case you'll probably be doing some kind of fine tuning and some advanced techniques to use the tools properly. For most of the casual use or even professional use, but if you're using just prompts for these models, just use what you think is the right way to be very clear, be very specific in what you're looking to get out of the model. And you should also remember that they never tire. You're not offended. If you want them to give it a different try, just ask, try once more and it'll give you a different response. But try to give it some feedback so it can apply that. But the other thing I would also say is, sometimes, and quite often I do this, if you're not satisfied for a particular prompt with one particular AI model, I actually try it on the second one too. And quite often I actually compare and I choose parts of this and parts of the other response. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So that's one thing. And each of these models also have slightly different nuances in terms of what's available. So, and they keep evolving, they keep releasing new features all the time. So for example, OpenAI GPT-5 they have a learning model that they've just released. And I'm personally somebody that enjoys learning in whatever the field. I happen to be focused on some, but some areas you may be focused on others. There are some tools that it provides you with out of the box, to say that, okay, use this feature to learn things properly. Or deep research is another feature that's quite valuable. And then how to use it properly is also something that takes some time. So in conclusion, I would just say that you don't necessarily have to focus on the particular prompt to use for a particular model, but I would like you to just to be familiar with different models. And also just stay in touch at a high level when a new release comes in, what's changing. So for example, if you want to generate a video with voice, Google Gemini has a great VEO3 feature, VEO3. On the other hand, if you want an image to be generated with some text in a particular way, ChatGPT works really well for that. And if you're looking for a coding assistant, on the other hand, you should look at Anthropic. And if you're looking for because Grok also has access to Twitter's real-time data, if you're looking for a very timely response on something that's very contemporary, like real-time information, Grok may be your best bet.
So will there be an aggregator in future?
There are already some aggregators as we speak.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and there are different ways in which those aggregators come into play. Perplexity, you
True,
can choose
true.
the
We
LLM.
use that.
And the same thing for Cursor, which is a coding assistant.
We
You
use
can
that too.
choose which LLM is connecting, is the backend. So, but that's one at a time. But then there are other tools. I don't, the exact name escapes me. There are a bunch of tools that let you fan out the same prompt to different LLMs and then aggregate the response.
That's good information. Then comes the question, right? All the heavy lifting is being done already in some areas by these tools, right? Especially for the knowledge workers. So, what kind of soft skills that one need to develop in this era? So, are they different from what they must have now? Is there anything in your opinion that we need to start developing?
Yeah, Neniput, already I might be sounding like a broken record at this point, but it's worth reinforcing the idea that communication, how you articulate your thoughts, and having clarity in your own thinking, which then gets reflected in the way you communicate, is invaluable because the nuances and how well to communicate, ఎలా మాడాలి, ఏ రకంగా చెప్పాలి దానికి, మీ యొక్క ఐడియాని మీరు ఎంత బాగా ఆలోచించి ప్రాంప్ట్ లో పెడితే అంత మంచిగా మీకు రెస్పాన్స్ వస్తుంది. సో ఆ క్లారిటీ అనేది చాలా ముఖ్యం. ఇట్ హెల్ప్స్ ఇన్ మెనీ ప్లేసెస్ ఇన్ లైఫ్. సేమ్ థింగ్ విత్ యూజింగ్ ఏఐ. అదొకటి. రెండోది మీకు చెప్పినట్టు ఐ థింక్ ఇట్స్ దెర్ ఆర్ ఇట్ డజంట్ హర్ట్ డిపెండింగ్ ఆన్ విచ్ ఫీల్డ్ యూర్ ఇన్. If you're a technologist, if you're a developer, application developer, etc., then you should spend a lot more time understanding how the underlying technology works. It's not as complicated, by the way. It's pretty straightforward. If you are a high school graduate, 12th grade, 12th grade అనుకుంటే క్యాల్కులస్ 1 అవి చేసి ఉంటే కొంచెం లీనియర్ ఆల్జిబ్రా అంటే matrix multiplication తెలిస్తే and some basic probability and statistics, you can get a pretty good understanding of how these models work. And even if you don't have that understanding, just watching some high-level videos on how these things are put together will help you be a better user of these tools. అదొక రకంగా టెక్నాలజీ పరంగా ఉంటే. On the other hand, if you're a marketing or sales, or if you're a graphics artist, then just use it as a tool. And the more tools you use, the more you use them, you'll become better at it. And that's what's going to differentiate you from many others who don't have that skill.
సో మీరు చెప్పేదాన్ని బట్టి ఒకటి నెంబర్ 1 కమ్యూనికేషన్, రెండోది క్లారిటీ ఇన్ వాట్ యు వాంట్, నెంబర్ 3 కాంప్రహెన్షన్, అది ఏమి ఇచ్చింది చదివి తెలుసుకొని కరెక్ట్గా ఆన్సర్ వచ్చిందా
Right.
లేదా తెలుసుకోవటం. నాలుగోది అన్నిటికంటే ముఖ్యమైనది మై టేక్ అవే ఫ్రమ్ వాట్ యు సెడ్ ఈస్ గ్రోత్ మైండ్ సెట్. Do not stagnate yourself because it is doing the heavy lifting. Do not stop yourself. Learn how to use it, how to enhance yourself to use it better, and how to stay ahead.
Yeah, I think you put it better than me. So.
Thank you for that. I'm in front of all the lighting, which makes me ask this question. Edison invented this light bulb about 150 years ago. From Edison to the Tesla, now everything went electric. If it took 150 years for electricity to become so ubiquitous, so what is going to be the future for AI? How long would it take to go fully AI?
Yeah, I think people use the term exponential growth a lot and they overuse it. But in this particular case, it's worthwhile to mention this. And technology is a force multiplier. So, ఎలా అంటే ఇప్పుడు electricity వచ్చింది. Without electricity, I mean, first of all, everything that we use today, the laptop that I'm chatting on, in the computers that we use, the AI itself is powered by electricity, right? It's not, it's became ubiquitous and took us a long time. But then computers took relatively smaller amount of time before they got used. Internet, before 1990s, it didn't even exist in popular imagination, and now people can't live without it. And there are lots of chats that are doing rounds on the internet that you would see that how long it took for Google to get their 1 millionth user versus Facebook, and or 1 billionth user for that matter, and then how long it's taking somebody like ChatGPT to do so. And it's just that speed is unthinkable, but it's here to stay. But that said, there is a lot of hype. I would state it in two ways. We have a tendency to overestimate the amount of stuff that's going to happen in the short term, and we have a tendency to underestimate the amount of progress that's going to be made in the longer term. So if you look at the hype that's taking place around AI, next to 2 years lone prapancham maripotundani cheppani, there is like a website ai-2027.com అని ఉంది. Ex OpenAI లో engineer కింద చేసి, and obviously he believes in that stuff. Apparently by his own claims, he gave up a job that pays multi-million dollars per year to make his prognosis, but the idea is by 2027 we are going to have super intelligence. Logic anta chala fast ga untundi ante entante year end kalla we will have, let's say, artificial general intelligence. I'm paraphrasing these ideas. You can look this up, but generally speaking, I'm reasonably accurate in what I'm trying to describe. సో ఈ సంవత్సరం ఎన్నికల్లా ఏజీఐ వచ్చేసి అనుకుందాం. ఏజీఐ అంటే ఏంటంటే ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ జనరల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్, బట్ అట్ ద లెవెల్ ఆఫ్ ఎ హ్యూమన్. సో బట్ అన్లైక్ హ్యూమన్స్, దీస్ థింగ్స్ కెన్ వర్క్ ఫర్ ఎవర్. They don't get tired, and you can have 100,000 of them in a data center. Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, అనమాట. A country of geniuses in a data center. That's his idea, right? So if you have this many geniuses that can work tirelessly, obviously they can find ways to improve AI itself to the next level and solve a lot of problems. Build a lot of robots that can replace humans. A lot of work మనం చేసేదంతా, because they're all geniuses, they can solve all the problems. So by end of 2026, all of a sudden మీకు ప్రపంచంలో ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ అన్ని సాల్వ్ అయిపోయేట్టు వచ్చేసినాయి. ఏఎస్ఐని ఆర్టిఫిషియల్ సూపర్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ అంటారు, ఏఎస్ఐ. దట్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు బి దేర్ బై 2027. And then in popular terms, that means that we have achieved singularity. You have artificial super intelligence that we cannot even comprehend. And మన గురించి ఏమీ అర్థం చేసుకోగలదు. Just gets extrapolated to such a level. Anyway, so that's the optimistic view. But now this is also not unique. It's shared by quite a few other people. There are two parts. ఈ జనరల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్, హ్యూమన్ లెవెల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ రావడానికి ఈ రోజున్న టెక్నాలజీ, రోజున్న algorithms, they're not good enough. There is still more research needed. There is still more exploration needed. And it's going to take some time. As with any research problem, it could take a few months, few years, and a few decades. We don't know how long it's going to take. So all I can say is we don't know how to build that yet, because if we know how to build it, we would have seen it by now. And so that's one part. The రెండోది ఏంటంటే, even if you while this is going on, the AI as it capabilities that exist today are quite useful, right? But then your next question is, ఈ మూవీ పాటలకి లేకపోతే ఇమేజెస్ కి ఇట్లాంటి వాటికి లేకపోతే చాట్ బాట్లకు తప్పితే, how come we are not able to use it in more places? So for example, 2025 is supposed to be the year of agents in AI. మరి చూస్తే ఇప్పుడు ఎంటర్ప్రైజ్ లో చూస్తే బ్యాంక్స్ కానీ ఎనీ లార్జ్ ఫర్మ్స్ కానీ AIs are not proliferating AI agents. There are some cases of them being deployed here and there, but they're very limited in any way. But that's because these things are ultimately very complex problems to solve. So how long did it take after internet, once we had the Netscape browser, how long did it take before Google came in with a search engine? And how many more years before Facebook came in? And how many more years before we had WhatsApp, right? A lot of things have to fall in place. It's not just the core technology, but the surrounding understanding, and a lot of people trying a lot of things and figuring out what works best, what doesn't, and existing processes, existing tools, existing mindsets of people. All these things have to change. And that's going to take a few years, and thankfully so, because otherwise the disruption would be too fast and too catastrophic, in my opinion.
So if I understand it, so there are multiple schools of thought. So ASI, that is artificial super intelligence, could be here by end of this decade by the optimistic approach. AGI is this year. There is no doubt that this will happen, at least from what I understand from you. But the technology is not here yet, in your opinion, and from the evidence that you see. But it is inevitable. So we are going to get there one day or the other. So that
Yeah.
so we agree on. I don't know if it is for good or bad. That is debatable.
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing. We have general intelligence. So the AI tools that we use today, they are generally intelligent. It's just that they are not as reliable and as consistent as an average human being in many things. Inkoti, I think it's worth introducing to your viewers this concept called Moravec's paradox. Moravec's paradox ఏంటంటే MORAVEC, by the way, Moravec. The idea is, what is very easy for humans is pretty hard for computers to solve. What is very hard for humans quite often turns out to be pretty easy for computers to solve. Sine of 32 degrees, calculator this to 20th decimal ante chala time padutundi. Even the smartest human calculator, Shakuntala Devi kuda. On the other hand, a computer can do it in a jiffy. That's because we know how to tell the computer to do it. It's not doing it by itself, right? We told it how to do it. We know how to say it precisely, and it just does it very quickly. It took us 50 more years before we could teach a computer how to reliably separate the picture of a dog from that of a cat, which a child of a few months old can distinguish without any training. Like essentially, they can tell the difference, and so that's more of X paradox.
So that okay. So what you are saying is, we don't know, but so it is not that easy for to train AI to just like we think. Even though there is some level of general intelligence, it is not on par with a human being yet.
Yeah, jagged intelligence అంటారు దాన్ని ఒకటి. And the course లో it may actually be much smarter than us or appear smarter. In many other areas, it can immediately surprise. Like there was a question that was floating around until earlier this year, like how many R's are there in strawberry? It was incredibly hard for LLMs to address that.
You wrote an article on Substack about software development 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. If you could share your thoughts in simple terms for our audience, that would be great.
So software 1.0 అంటే ఏంటంటే this is something in this context. This is an idea that was coined by Andre Karpathy, but he's a very good thought leader in this space. He's worth listening to. So software 1.0 means this is how software used to be developed and deployed since the advent of computers. So machine language varna, assembly language varna, COBOL varna, Java varna, C or C++ varna, or Python varna. All these things are considered software 1.0. ఎందుకంటే ఈ ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ లాంగ్వేజెస్ లో వాడి మీరు చేసేటప్పుడు యూఆర్ డిఫైనింగ్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ దట్ ద కంప్యూటర్ మస్ట్ డూ. మీరు చెప్పకుండా ఏమీ చేయదు అది. యూఆర్ ఎక్స్ప్లిసిట్లీ కోడింగ్ అండ్ టెలింగ్ వాట్ టు డూ, హౌ టు డూ ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ వాట్ టు డూ ఇన్ every bit of the way. So it's very deterministic from that perspective, and it's very predictable, and you've defined the application, right? So it turns out that this kind of a model is really good at solving lots of problems. So ఈ రోజుల్లో వాడే ట్రెడిషనల్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ అంతా మైక్రోసాఫ్ట్ ఎక్సెల్ అనుకోండి, పవర్ పాయింట్స్ అనుకోండి, ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్ సెల్స్ ఆర్ దిస్ వీడియో కాల్, మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద స్టఫ్, ఎవ్రీథింగ్ దట్ వీ యూస్ టుడే, ఆల్మోస్ట్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్ was based on software 1.0. వీటిలో ఉండంగా ఈ పారాడైమ్ తోటి ఇట్ హ్యాస్ సమ్ లిమిటేషన్స్. ఇందాక ఆల్రెడీ ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇచ్చాను, ఇంకొక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇస్తాను. లెట్స్ ఏ ఆప్టికల్ క్యారెక్టర్ రికగ్నిషన్ అని చెప్పిన సింపుల్ ప్రాబ్లం అది. సో అదేంటంటే లెట్స్ ఏ యూ హ్యావ్ రిటన్ లైక్ 1 2 3 అని రాసాం. ఆ నంబర్ 1 2 3 నా 3 2 1 నా 5 6 7 ఫిగరింగ్ అవుట్ ఎనీ టైమ్ యూ రైట్ అ నంబర్ 2 దట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ 2 అని చెప్పి చెప్పడానికి ఇన్ అ రిలయబుల్ వే ఇట్స్ వెరీ హార్డ్ టు డూ. Humans do it just like that, but it's very hard to tell the computer in the software 1.0 way to tell how to do that. And there are many other examples like this. Natural language processing అని ఉంటుంది. అదేంటంటే మామూలుగా మీరు ఒక చాట్ బాట్ తో మాట్లాడగలగాలి. అటుపక్క కంప్యూటర్ ఉంది, ఇటుపక్క మనిషి ఉన్నాడు. How to talk to that? How can you talk to that computer? Or how can you teach a computer to speak in a human-like way, right? And that's a very difficult problem to solve before the advent of the latest advances. We'll talk about that. So adi teliyaledu. It's so bad that there were many subfields of natural language processing. Kontamandi people, they dedicated their careers on just what's called sentiment classification. Ante oka movie review vaste aa review positive ఆ negative ఆ చెప్పడం, that is a big deal. లేకపోతే కొంతమందికి reading a piece of text and then say what are the nouns in this piece of text. That was a difficult problem. Translating from one language to another, French to English, English to German, Telugu to English. మీకు ముందుంది ముసళ్ళ పండగ అంటే imagine how do you translate that into English. In front of you is Crocodiles Festival. That doesn't make sense, right? Nobody would like, if it's a literal translation, but it doesn't work to first language English as a first language listener.
Yeah.
They won't understand it. So how do you translate something like that? These are not easy problems to solve. So వీటికి software 2.0 వచ్చింది. Software 2.0 is the paradigm where you're not telling the computer how to solve the problem. Instead, you use this concept of a neural network or deep neural network. You feed it a lot of data and you say this is the correct answer. Or you train the neural network on a large amount of data and let it figure out how to deal with it. So for example, ఈ రోజున LLMs మాట్లాడితే ఒకప్పుడు చాట్ బాట్స్ తయారు చేయాలంటే దే యూస్ టు బి లైక్ ప్రొఫెసర్స్ ఫ్రమ్ హార్వర్డ్ అండ్ దీస్ గ్రేట్ ప్లేసెస్ దట్ వుడ్ టాక్ అబౌట్ ఒక గ్రామాటికల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది, ప్రతి ఒక్క సెంటెన్స్ కి సబ్జెక్టు, వెబ్, ఆబ్జెక్టివ్, వర్బ్ ఎట్లా ఉంటాయి, హౌ టు క్రియేట్ abstract syntax trees, ఇలాంటివన్నీ చేసేవాళ్ళు. But all of that turned out to be unnecessary. Instead, what we do is we train this deep neural network on all of internet's data, all text data that we have ever created as human beings, or as much of it as possible. And it turns out that when you train the deep neural network with this kind of data, it learns the patterns in language. It can translate from one language to another. It can discern some meaning. So I'm not getting into technical details. Transformer architecture itself is a fascinating topic. We can cover that at a later point if any of your audience are interested. But my point is that is software 2.0. And then now there is a idea of software 3.0. So software 3.0 అంటే ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు వైప్ కోడింగ్ అంటారు or prompt engineering అంటారు. So you're no longer asking this LLM to do like నేను మీతో పని చేయించుకోవాలనుకోండి, మీకు ఒక ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్ చెప్తాను, మీరు పని చేస్తున్నారు, నేను ప్రోగ్రామ్ రాయట్లేదు, నేను డేటా ఇచ్చి ట్రైన్ చేయట్లేదు, మీకు ఆల్రెడీ కొంచెం లెవెల్ ఆఫ్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ ఉంది, నేను మీకు ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ ఇచ్చి మీ దగ్గర పని చేయించుకుంటాను. ఇక్కడ నేను వాడేది ఐఎమ్ యూజింగ్ న్యాచురల్ హ్యూమన్ లాంగ్వేజ్, అండ్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ 3.0 is apparently that. So instead of a human, for the first time in history, you have an AI model that is capable of following natural language instructions, and it has a certain level of intelligence, and you can use this intelligence to do the work by communicating to it in a natural language. So that is software 3.0.
So now, how good are we in software 3.0? From what you say, we are already using tools like Cursor కావచ్చు, లేకపోతే వేరే కోడింగ్ అసిస్టెంట్స్ కావచ్చు. I can just say, just like a product manager, you can tell what exactly you want. It can not only create stories for your developers, it also can code an application for you. In your opinion, how good this technology is now, and how far are we from what I would say, one of the questions I always get is it going to replace me? So how far are we from that, or how we differentiate us from software 3.0?
Yeah, so there are a couple of quick answers. Okati, first of all, it's very good. It's very powerful, right? And as I said before, if you can be very clear in your instructions, in your intent, and if you can communicate that effectively, what you're going to get out of these models is also going to be pretty decent already. You don't need any more advances. It's already there. మనకు ఆల్రెడీ ఇప్పుడున్న మోడల్స్ తోటి చాలా చేయొచ్చు. But that said, ఈ రోజున మోడల్స్ కి there are two fundamental limitations. ఒకటి, they don't learn continuously, right? Ipudu, let's say we started working together. I started working for you. Me podcast lo nen pan cheyalante, I don't know initially day one నాకు వేరే జనరల్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ ఉండొచ్చు. I don't know what you want and the way you communicate and the way you want stuff to be done. Or as I'm working on answering your questions, I'm learning new things and I retain them and I'm updating my own knowledge and how I can work better at this job the next time I do this. అందుకనే ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ క్యాండిడేట్స్ కోసం ఎందుకు అడుగుతారు మీరు? Presumably these people have gained some experience and they have some skills and knowledge, and they're not going to stop learning once you get them working for you, right? Then they are also continuously learning, right? That's the truth, especially in this modern day anyway. So adokati, that's a limitation of today's models. The second one is maybe people are trying to solve both of these things, by the way, but they are not solved problems. రెండో ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటంటే ఇట్స్ అ కాంటెక్స్ట్ అండ్ ద కాంటెక్స్ట్ ఈజ్ దెర్ ఈస్ అ లాట్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ దట్ రైట్ నో. మీకు ప్లేటోస్ కేవ్ అని ఒక ఐడియా ఉందా? గ్రాఫికల్ ఇష్యూ అది. ప్లేటోస్ కేవ్ అంటే ఐడియా ఏంటంటే, ఇమాజిన్ అ పర్సన్ హూ నెవర్ లెఫ్ట్ ద కేవ్. ఇది కూపస్థ మండుకం టైపు, బట్ డిఫరెంట్ వే. దే నెవర్ లెఫ్ట్ ద కేవ్, దే ఆర్ ఇన్సైడ్ ద కేవ్, అండ్ ద ఓన్లీ థింగ్ దట్ దే సీ ఫ్రమ్ ఇన్సైడ్ ద కేవ్ ఈస్ ద షాడోస్ దట్ ఆర్ కాస్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ అవుట్ సైడ్ ఇన్. అవుట్ సైడ్ వరల్డ్ నుంచి లైట్ వెళ్తూ ఇటు వెళ్తూ షాడోస్, ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ మూవ్ అవుతున్నాయి. ఒక కుక్క అటు పరిగెత్తు వెళ్ళింది, ఇటు పిల్లి ఇటు వెళ్ళింది, ఓ చెట్టు పెరిగింది, చెట్టు పడిపోయింది. దే ఆర్ నాట్ ఏబుల్ టు సీ అవుట్ సైడ్, బై ద వే. దే ఆర్ ఓన్లీ ఏబుల్ టు సీ ద షాడోస్ దట్ ఆర్ ఇంటు ద కేవ్. సో ఆబ్వియస్లీ దే హ్యావ్ ఓవర్ ఎ పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్, ఇఫ్ దే హ్యావ్ బీన్ సీయింగ్ ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్, దే పర్సీవ్ సమ్ థింగ్స్, దే హ్యావ్ సమ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్, బట్ ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఇనఫ్. సో ఇప్పుడు ఈ రోజున ఏఐ ఏంటంటే, ఆల్ ద ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ దట్ ఇట్ హ్యాస్ ఈస్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ద టెక్స్ట్ దట్ వి ట్రైన్డ్ ఇట్ ఆన్, అండ్ there are some images and people are trying those things, but they don't have the sensory information that we get.
If you will, right?
Right.
We are born with that.
Sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of hearing, vision. Now, you could argue that some things are there, some things are not there. But my point is the idea of an embodied intelligence and the context that comes with it. And this is, maybe I'll include this in the second weakness, or maybe I can add this as a third weakness. The third weakness is the large context. What happens with a large language model, which is the biggest thing, most successful Gen AI that we all get used to when we talk about this today, has the limitation of a context. మీరు గనక అంటే కాంటెక్స్ట్ అంటే ఇట్స్ లైక్ యువర్ మెమరీ, షార్ట్ టర్మ్ మెమరీ. and your memory. All it knows at any given moment, apart from the knowledge it's been trained on and that's stuck in time, is this little bit of context. It doesn't remember anything else. Whereas we humans, when we didn't just stop remembering having experience and remembering them from 10 years ago. We're constantly adding to our memories, adding to our experiences. And if you think about it, every moment you're getting gigabytes of information, sensory information, but your brain somehow extracts only the useful bits and stores them. So how do you extract useful information, store it in a usable way? That's another problem that hasn't been resolved yet. So my point is, as much as we get concerned about AI and the advances and all of that, there are still unsolved problems that are yet to be solved. So you
After
can rest easy.
yeah, after listening to that, definitely I feel a little happier. So now we are coming to the last question. We touched this in different way, but let me put it anyway. So now, as you said, as you took us from how it started in 1940s and how we got it here, without internet. Correct me if I am wrong. So there would not have been the possibility of the LLMs that we have today, and obviously there would be no AI without internet, and or even without the Twitter, without Reddit, without YouTube, and all this kind of information that we shared willfully on internet. Not only just internet, the willful information shared by every one of us. Either could be blogs or it could be technical documents, whatever that is. We made the LLM happen. Now with the AI, we talked about AGI and ASI. Is that the end of our imagination, or could there be something else that could really, really go beyond according to your imagination? What is next? What is the next big wave? So we are able to see until ASI. ASI itself, from your words, is incomprehensible. But is there something that we can do beyond, go beyond?
Yeah, so ఒకటి చిన్నది కరెక్ట్ చేసి then I'll
Mhm.
address your question. అంటే AI as we know today, the LLMs, that technology, that particular thing wouldn't exist without internet and all
Yeah.
this data. But there are other models that we
Mhm.
perhaps could have developed. So I just
Exactly.
want to say it's the LLMs as we know today that wouldn't be able to exist without that level of
Yeah.
data.
Got it. Thank you.
Right? Yeah. And the next question is, I mean, super intelligence itself is already, there is no limit to that. The only thing I would add to that in terms of science fiction, and, we're getting to the realms of science
It's true.
fiction,
Yeah.
right? There is this idea that was doing rounds on the internet, and it's still going around. Is so when people talked about the threats that are posed by this artificial superintelligence and how it could destroy humanity, and their point was, why not? Why are you so biased towards humans? So their
Yeah.
point is, the supposed idea is if you get this ASI, we're thinking of our interests. Is its interest going to be, are their interests going to be aligned with those of ours, etc.? I don't think those questions mean much. So one way of looking at it is, maybe we will have pan-galactic intelligence. So this ASI will find ways. Maybe it'll get bored with this, living on this limited blue planet on a peripheral system on Milky Way galaxy. Maybe it'll, build itself a spaceship and, go into the great ether to find and establish new colonies. Or maybe it'll create a trillion copies of itself and does the same thing. So all these are science fiction at this point. I love reading many of these books and stuff, but
So now I think we will do a quick round. So do you belong to Elon Musk camp, who thinks AI is evil? Almost close to that, if I want to put it. He is worried that AI can take over us. Or Google's one of the founders called him speciest, just like you said,
just,
because
yeah.
he wants to, instead of racist, now Elon Musk is called speciest by Sergey, I think. So which camp are you on? So are you optimist for AI to do good things for us? Are you pessimist, like without control AI could really harm us?
Hard to say. I'm a realist. So just to be clear, I think Elon Musk thinks that a super intelligence is going to be it could be very dangerous. I guess I have to remember what he said exactly, but one of those things is, yeah. But in my opinion, it's like Pandora's box. Once it's opened, you cannot put it back into the box. So the situation that we have is because everyone will point to someone else and say, look at this country or that company. If we don't do this, they will do it,
Yeah.
right? It's so my view is more realistic. I think, we've seen many such things come and not go, but come and stay with us. I'm reasonably optimistic that we'll find a way to live with it.
Okay.
Because it's quite possible that its interests could be very different from ours, and it may never have any agency. Because a lot of things culminated probably through evolution to get us to where we got to, where we not only have the intelligence, but we also have some other bits that we don't quite know what they are, but they are driving our aspirations, our desires, our goals. We don't quite know how to create that in an AI. Is that something that will automatically emerge after it reaches certain level of sophistication? I don't
So
know.
I ask everyone to visit Ram's Substack and read his thoughts and understand more what his ideas are on AI. Besides your Substack, what are the go-to places if someone wants to learn about AI? So what are some good podcasts? What are some YouTube channels that you would recommend?
So it depends on which way, how deeply they want to go. Okati, first of all, na blogs, just to give you a plugin, it's modelanalysis.ai. That's my Substack. So in terms of some channels that I would recommend, if you're looking for something mathematical or technical, that could be Three Blue, One Brown, or somebody like Andre Karpathy. So Andrej Karpathy, Karpathy. సో ఆయన ఐడియా బ్లాగ్స్ చాలా బాగుంటాయి. కొంచెం ఈజీగా ఉండాలంటే ఏఐ డైలీ బ్రీఫింగ్ అని చెప్పి ఒకటి ఉంది, ఇంకోటి లేకపోతే ఏఐ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్డ్ అని చెప్పి ఒకటి ఉంది. ఐ వుడ్ సే స్టార్ట్ విత్ దోస్, బట్ ఐడియల్లీ యూ షుడ్ జస్ట్ go to Google, YouTube, look for
ChatGPT.
or ChatGPT. In fact, I use ChatGPT, by the way. It's talk feature quite a bit when I go on walks. I turn on the voice mode and I listen to. I ask questions and have a conversation on any topic that interests me. It doesn't have to be just AI. It could be history. It could be science. It could be anything. I just spend an hour talking to ChatGPT, for example.
Nice. So we are going to put all the links, including modelanalysis.ai, in the description. Please go through all that. And as Ram said it, only way out for us is having growth mindset and improving ourselves every day. So once again, thanks a lot, Ram. Thanks for being very patient with all my questions. So we look forward to having you one more time, because we did not get a chance to dig deep, because you have so much knowledge. And sorry that I was a little bit ill prepared to ask you even more wiser questions. So next time I think we are going to dig deeper and give more to our audience. Thanks a lot, Ram.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me.